We are live, my people. If I can invite my fellow panelists to camera on, reveal yourselves, mics on. Hello and welcome to Friday afternoon. To those that were here at the last event last week, you'll know that as the unauthorized host, I have a very noisy parrot in my background. So I'm going to mute and camera off probably for the whole talk and just enjoy it. But welcome to the people online. Welcome to our panel. Thank you so much to everybody who decided to be in this moment here today. I think that's absolutely beautiful. Let me hand over to our panel to introduce themselves. But to our audience, please let us know where you are calling in from, what part of the country or the continent you're from, and we will get going. Shout out to Revo for giving us all the credit that we need for showing up and looking good today. But Jabba, let me hand over to you and let's hear what you got to say.
Hey everyone, I hope you guys are great. My name is Jabulo Mpanza, otherwise known as Jabba. I am a business analyst facilitator at Umuzi, which really just means that I see learners' journeys through from the beginning right up until the end. All the BA students, those are my babies. I make music part-time for fun, which is really great. I know what else. I'm so bad at intros. I'm always so bad at intros.
Sounds like yes.
I love it, yeah, Umuzi. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the discussion, guys. I'm gonna hand over to Jay.
Cool. I'm also such an awkward person, but I'll give it a shot. Hi, everybody online and to the beautiful panel. My name is Jade Chowdhury, and I am also part of the Umuzi team. I'm the UX UI manager and facilitator. Yeah, I can see lots of my babies in the chat, which is very fun. Yeah, so that's me.
And then on behalf of Jade, handing the baton to Carly.
To Carly. Sorry,
Yay! No, that's okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Carly. If you don't know me, I work at Umuzi and I head up culture and brand and help Say organize these awesome events, which is super cool. Sabeeha and I go way back. So I'm super excited to hear her talk and chat and discuss things and all the awesome stuff. Yeah. Say, do you want to introduce yourself?
I won't do that, but I will do a probably not as good job as she would herself at introducing Sabeeha. But the talk will do all the things, but we've got a powerhouse human being with us today, everybody. I hope you are ready. This woman has a background in development. She has a background in design. She has started her own business. She does all the things. And I'm really, really looking forward to hearing from you. And I'm so stoked to see the people on the panel and how loud the audience is. It's so cool to see comments coming through. I want to encourage everybody listening to jump on and ask your questions. We'll definitely try to make this as conversational as possible. So if you've got thoughts or questions, you drop them in the chat and we'll make sure that we address them in and amongst things. But Sabeeha, over to you, and thank you for you. If you want to drop your presentation down, we can pull that up.
Yeah, sure. Firstly, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining on a Friday afternoon. I don't usually work this time of day, so bear with me if I look a tad bit sleepy. I did have a really good lunch, lots of Indian food and rice. So definitely thank you for the lovely introduction as well. I'm super excited to have a conversation today. So I do have some slides. I'm going to talk you guys through a couple things, but I would also love for it to be a little bit more interactive so that I don't feel like I am presenting a class today. Okay, amazing. I'm going to share my screen and jump into it.
Perfect. Cool. Your technical officer command will assist you.
Amazing. Can everybody see my screen? I can't see you though, so you must just stop me when you need to.
Cool, we got your screen and we are ready to go.
Okay, this was really a fun topic, I guess. I don't often talk about at least how my background has influenced sort of what I'm doing today. But essentially, I am what I'd love to call a multi-passionate entrepreneur because I have diagnosed ADHD, and it's a fun way of saying that I get bored easily and love to do multiple different things simultaneously. But my biggest baby essentially is a company called Jack Studios. And today I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about my journey and what being, a jack of all trades and a jack of agile trades might mean and might look like, especially to anyone that is interested in, exploring multiple different fields, especially in the tech space, and how that can actually be of such value in the industry. For some context, I have personally worked with over 50 startups in the last few years. These were some of the logos I could find. The rest are probably deep in the archives that I wish to not dig up. But I have worked with startups in the legal field, prop tech, sustainability, medtech, fintech, Web3, on-demand delivery, and everything in between. And a lot of these logos were also created by my team. So it's really cool to have been part of startups really early when they literally have a dream and they want to create the Uber for this or the Tinder for that. And we really walk that journey with them. And I think the best way I can sort of even try to sum up who I am is to talk a little bit about what's almost been a 10-year journey since my first day on campus back in 2014. It sounds ridiculous because I still feel 23, if anybody asks. It's definitely been.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, I mean, as my mom likes to tell me, she had her kids by the time she was my age. So I'm like, I'm
Love
still
that for her.
Oh no. Oh no. Stop right there.
Yeah, I haven't started that journey. So I have birthed a lot of businesses, and at least they've, made me money. So whereas kids seem to cost money. Yeah, so I'm just going to give you some of the highlights just so that you can start understanding the thread of my experience across the industry, essentially. It started in 2014 when I started at Open Window. And I actually went to Open Window to become a photographer, and I came out a software developer. So that in and of itself is a TED Talk. But what happened in 2014 was I essentially started freelancing, and that's where I'd like to think that Jack was born initially, even though it may not have been called that at the time. But I both wanted to and needed to start earning money. So I started freelancing with anything and everything that I was able to do. And back in 2014, Open Window was still very much exploring, or you could explore different subjects that you wanted to do. So I did photography, motion design, I think some film theory, software development, and a bunch of things in between. So I had a lot of little skills that I think many people or many of you guys that are on the call today may also have. And essentially, I didn't wait to be ready or to be qualified. I just started doing it either really cheap or free just to start gaining experience in the space. And what that sort of led to was a lot of networking and opportunities along the way. And 2015, I worked as a photographer and a marketer for a fashion blogger. Like, it's way more common now, but in 2015, it was sort of I think in its early years of influencer lifestyle and traveling around and fake documenting somebody's life. It was awful. I did not enjoy that because she didn't also pay me half the time, but it was cool. I had a really interesting experience. And towards the end of 2015 is when I actually started interning in the field that I had chosen, which was in the design and development space. And I worked at a small studio at the time called Flint and Tinder. And it was literally like, I don't know, 5 or 6 of us in this tiny office. And I was the only female, and we all sat around a table I remember I used to drive from Pretoria to Parktown at the time, so most of my day just went sitting in traffic. I was working on like HTML5 banners at the time, and I was like, oh no, is this what the working world is like? And yeah, it started scaring me just a little bit. But it was interesting to just also start getting, I guess, real life experience before, qualifying essentially. By the time sort of 2016 came around, which was my final year, I had a part-time position as a UI designer as well as a front-end developer at a startup called Live Education. And honestly, when I look back, these were the coolest, kindest people. I worked in Hatfield in Pretoria. It was opposite the Flamingo Strip Club. It was quite a vibe at the time. And I did that part-time while finishing out my degree at the time. And then towards the end of September, I actually worked at the university as a business analyst at the time. They were looking to design out a custom digital learning environment. It was a very interesting and regulated procedure.
Question.
Yes.
What is a custom digital learning
Sabeeha.
environment?
Let me tell you the brief, right? When I say this, the brief was we wanted this 3D gaming environment that had multiple worlds. And the idea, like, with all these different subjects, was to move in and out of these worlds.
This was pre-COVID, hey?
This was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
This was before even COVID was a thing. I mean, it was very explorative. It was an interesting group of people. It was sort of sitting outside the campus, but involving the campus, which I also think was a big issue at the time. I don't think much came out of it, to be honest, but a big part of my job was going around and talking to lecturers and trying to map out the current processes and the technical requirements that would be needed to, like, what did we need to build or what did we need to design at the time? Must be honest, it was not a very conducive environment for me. Again, it was a boardroom table with 5 people sitting around staring at each other. But it was work, it was money, it was experience. As you can see, there was no consistency in job titles and responsibilities, which also, in retrospect, was great because I just learned how to do things. And I mean, I don't know what a business analyst did, so I Googled and you start putting some documents together. Finished my degree in 2016 and I left Open Window as well. I left all the part-time jobs essentially. And after I graduated, I was offered a position at Punk, which was the old Flint and Tinder. So they had got acquired and they had reached out, I think, at Facebook at the time. They were like, hey, did you finish your degree? Like, they said they enjoyed working with me. And I was looking for something at the time. So I was like, cool. Went and interviewed. And at the time, I think the job title was just creative. So I was like, cool, I'm a creative. And I started in the design section of the team, and I worked on, I think, 1 or 2 app designs. And then at some point, I think it was Popeye's chicken that came to South Africa. So I had to start photoshopping pictures of chicken. And I was not having that. I was like, I don't actually know how to do this, and nor do I want to. So I was like, hey, guys, there's a development department. I qualified in that as well. I'd be quite keen to, get into the dev side of things. And they were like, yeah, sure. Literally just move into the next room. They took away my MacBook, which didn't make me very happy. But I started development. And the first project I was put alone on was a mobile app for a bank by myself in a language I did not know. And I was told I have a month to figure it out. So best believe I built that app and then I resigned because I worked like 16 to 18 hours a day. And then I actually joined my first corporate job. as a UX designer / developer. So you'll see the trend of the slashes starting to happen essentially. So I joined EOH, which is now called IOCO, in October. And as much as whatever anyone can say about corporate, it was the first time I really felt safe. And everything was very calm and everyone was very nice. People left by 3 p.m. to pick their kids up from school. I really started to figure out like work-life balance, and yeah, it was really cool. And I actually went back to school then in 2018, and that's where Carly and I actually worked together. Well, not worked. Well, she was my lecturer at the time. It felt way more collaborative, though.
Aww. I love that.
It was amazing. Yeah, and I did my honors degree in anxiety in the digital space, which really, I mean, I explored a lot of my own personal, limitations around anxiety and how I felt around my phone and, my lifestyle, living online and working, and just exploring those boundaries between, your personal and professional life, and, how does that actually play out in the digital world. And I'm very grateful to have been able to have had the chance to spend an entire year to do that. And the corporate job helped a lot with that. So I still got paid, and they gave me the space, the time, and they helped fund, me going to do the degree. Around March of 2018, some of the old clients, so keep in mind, I've been freelancing this entire time behind the scenes because, what else is there to do at night and on the weekend? So yeah, some of the old clients started contacting me again. And this time around, I made a really good friend at EOH who is an amazing developer. And we sort of started collaborating where I would focus more on design and he would build out what I did. So I would help with front end, but then he was really like a solid C# Microsoft developer. And yeah, we didn't mind the extra cash or the extra experience at the time. And somehow I did all of this simultaneously. Looking back now, I don't think I have nearly as much energy as I probably had in 2018. And towards the end of 2018 is when I actually, it's when I actually founded my first digital product, which was called Wanderlust. It started off as a dating app, which ended so badly. But I actually co-founded it with an old client from Punk. So he reached out to me, asked if I, freelance, and he's got an interesting project. And till today, we are collaborating on projects outside of Jack, and it's still one of my favorite projects, and it's still living on in its like 7th version and 7th shape, but the name has sort of stuck with us over time. 2019 came around, so obviously graduated with my honors degree, and I thought, oh my goodness, okay, this means more money. And it did mean a promotion, but the money was very far behind. So I was promoted to UX team lead at EOH. And what that meant was I was now middle management, which in my personal opinion is the worst space to be in because you have all the responsibility and none of the authority. But I got to manage the internship programs. I got to oversee processes. This is sort of where I started understanding how people work together instead of just me. And around March of 2019, the freelancing was going so well. It was mildly terrifying how much of money was coming into my personal account, and I was really scared of SARS. So we decided to register the company at the time. And I'm so grateful that I did because it really taught me a lot around shareholders agreements and the legal side of things. It was really, really cool. By August of that year, I finally built up the courage to say, hi, I've been doing this promotional thing for a few months and I haven't received an increase in salary. And all they sort of came back with was, hi, we can offer you 3,000 Rand more for having done literally an entirely different job. So I knew I had to leave, unfortunately. And I left without knowing what I was going to do, as I usually do. But by October of 2019, one of the clients that my partner Dylan and I were working with had offered me a full-time position to run the solutions department. So again, a whole different job title, but it was very, very interesting it was an exciting challenge to, be able to, what I thought is do my own thing, but funded by somebody else. I was severely mistaken. Also, they offered me double my salary because I refused to tell them how much I earned at the time. So I said, this is what I want. And they were like, cool, we can pay you that. So it was very difficult to say no to at the time. 2020 rolled around, and I don't know how many people can relate to the mental breakdowns that were happening at the time.
I was personally looking forward to this part of the story the most because it's the first thing I saw on your timeline, and I was like, "Wow, what's happening there?"
The world burned. It was great. I mean, in retrospect, I love the chaos, but yeah, the job was intense. It was challenging, but it was so unrewarding. I felt very mistreated. We couldn't align on things, and it literally wasn't worth the money. I was like, I would rather go back to my old job at this point and earn half the money just to not cry myself to sleep. Because also for context, it was the first time I was alone because I was working so much before this. It was the first time I had one job and sitting alone in my apartment in Pretoria in lockdown. I couldn't see friends, I couldn't see family. And then you start to really just consider the weight of your decisions in life. And I really said to myself, if not now, then when am I going to do my own thing? When am I actually going to take the risk on myself? Because I've been running my own business on the side. Why not just, take the plunge? So the money was great. It definitely gave me, I hoid all of that into a savings account because there was nothing to do and nothing to buy in 2020. So I had a little nice nest egg, and August of 2020 decided to, go into Jack full time. So not just freelance, not do it on the side, but I was like, I am going head first into this, and, we'll figure out what happens next. Yeah, that was the most important thing that happened 3 years ago. 2021 was an interesting year. By March of 2021, we made our first million. And it was such an interesting feeling because straight after that, my business partner and I parted ways. Entrepreneurship was not for him. So even though we were making that money, I think we were taking 10 grand as a salary because the turnover was just, I didn't know much about money at the time. So we kept learning. But anyway, he had left. We were in partnership. So the business went back to zero, and I had to rebuild, find new clients because he was doing all the development, and now I didn't want to develop anymore, and I didn't know any other developers. So I'm like, cool, no longer offering this entire service that was bringing in majority of the money. So needed to reaffirm why on earth I wanted to do this again. It was a very, very tough year. But by September of that year, we had grown to a small team of around 4 people. We had clients in South Africa, Amsterdam, and the UK. We worked with a lot of small businesses and entrepreneurs, and it felt amazing. And by the end of 2021, I actually ran a boot camp to upskill. What was actually happening was I was getting a lot of recruiters sort of in my inbox being like, do you want a job? I'm like, no, please stop offering me a job because I might just say yes because, I'm making a lot of money. But I saw the need for, the upskilling of UX design at the time. So I ran a boot camp where we had, I think, around 12 to 14 designers. So in different fields, either as, graphic designers or junior UI designers, some business analysts even, and they were all keen on, understanding the world of startup design. And that's sort of how I positioned it, where we got 7 real life entrepreneurs who were very early stage, very similar to our current clients. And we put this boot camp together where we paired the designers with the entrepreneurs, and we taught them and through an 8-week program of how to actually help a real life person bring their idea to life and sort of put a pitch deck together. And two of those startups are still around today. 2 years later, one of them is doing extremely well. They're about to go into like a seed or Series A funding round in Cape Town. They're called Loop. So they're digitizing the taxi industry. Really, really cool time. I learned a lot. It also drove me absolutely crazy. So I take my hat off to you guys that teach and enjoy it. 2022, it was a really, really good time. It was the first time I hired 3 full-time employees. So before this, we were still paying people for their time, working with other freelancers and contractors. But eventually we had a really large 2 million rand contract. And I was like, cool, I need people. I can't do this for myself anymore. Simultaneously, with my ex-partner, decided to open up a physical store because it's something he wanted to do. So got my hands dirty in like a small business space. Don't think I'd ever do retail again anytime soon, sitting in a shop was soul draining, waiting for like customers to come in and buy little things. But yeah, it was, again, interesting experience. Feb of 2022, last year, we actually got into the NFT space. It was so interesting to just have my mind blown again that I have no idea how money works and what value actually is to people. We created a little NFT project. It sold out in 45 minutes for around 2.5 million rand. And ever since then, I struggled to understand the concept of money, and I'm so keen to learn more. We also got the opportunity to work with Crypto.com to help develop NFTs for Formula One. Didn't actually go live, but the experience was very, very interesting. By the end of last year, we ended the year having worked on over 40 projects, making over 7 million in revenue. We had built a wonderful, safe team culture. Everyone worked hard, rested really well, had a ton of fun. And I thought I was on top of the world. So when I came in 2023, I was like, cool, I finally want to step into whatever a CEO is supposed to do. I'm done designing, developing, managing. I'm going to focus on business growth and development. And this year was a wonderful bear market. So everything came crashing down. People stopped spending money the way they used to. Our clients were pulling back on contracts. And by April, I really had to step back into the business, help manage clients, manage projects. And it felt like I had moved back like 2 years in my own timeline. It was very frustrating, but again, being back in the business actually helped me identify new problems, new things people are looking for. It helped me understand our client needs a lot better. So as of, this month, essentially, I am now focusing on updating our sales and business strategies in order to match the market, and even just being able to understand what a strategy and a business strategy is now compared to like 2020, where I was like, I'm just doing this, we'll figure the rest out. Yeah, it's weird because there's no end to this particular story other than it's been an insane ride of a lifetime. And the most important thing I've learned is who you surround yourself with is probably the biggest life decision you can make after who your, life partner is going to be. So I'm really, really excited by the amazing dreamers and believers and thinkers that I'm surrounded with, people that actually believe in me and my greatness, even when I don't sometimes. And just focusing on building my tribe has been, I would say, the biggest success more than the business, because no matter what I do or what the business becomes, these are the people I want to do it with. And especially after having worked in so many businesses, I'm starting to understand how you can make the most out of the people you're with as well, but how rare it is to start attracting the right people and the right energies into your businesses. I'm going to take a 2-second break before I jump into what Agile is.
But I got questions for you. Damn.
I think we need to give us a round of applause, man.
I'm preparing for a second to look at everyone.
Sure, I'm gonna go out there and do something now.
I need a nap. I don't know about you. I need a nap, so
I
maybe
need a
that's what I'll go do.
Wow, that was amazing. That was amazing. Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing. It's
No,
not
I'm not
often.
23. Sorry, someone asked if I'm. No, guys, I'm not 23 anymore.
I was going to say, can we please clarify the question in the comments? Because I don't know if that's true.
No, I feel 23, but I'm only 28. I am not even that old yet.
I mean, that is still damn young for all of the things that existed on that channel.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Oh, okay. Are you ready to get into what is Agile and how this has actually influenced some stuff?
So I wanted to just quickly go back to something you said. There's a lot of stuff coming through in the chat here. Not so many questions for the moment. I think we'll get there, but just a lot of commentary on inspiration. So definitely make some time to go down there. But something I wanted to ask you, you mentioned how, so going into the corporate space, like way back, I think it was in early, you explained that as like, I mean, look, there was a lot going on there. But you used the words that like going into corporate, despite what anyone else has said, felt safe. And I wanted to know like more, because I think often what you hear about corporate is the opposite. And that was an interesting perspective too.
I mean, I also want to say that I think I was very lucky about the place that I was at, that they had also created that environment. But I think also safety for me, like quiet is what I'm sort of also leaning towards, where like all the other environments, and especially startup, it's just hectic, right? Like 16-hour working days is the norm. If you're leaving at 5 o'clock, people are looking at you like bombastic side eye. So it's very like hustle culture, you know. So going into like this more corporate environment I was so shocked to see people leaving at 3 p.m. and it was like, yeah, no, we're done with our day. We need to pick our kids up from school. You know, some level of flexibility was also there. When I started my honors, I used to start work at around 6, finish at 1, and then, you know, go to campus or do my honors work, and then I still had the afternoon to, you know, do the freelancing stuff. And the pace of the work was also safer. Like they had such padding on the timelines, because again, I was used to such hectic. So maybe if you just start there, it feels like it could be hectic, but I was used to like 10 times the workload. So for me, it was like, oh, let's go get coffee, let's, you know, take a lunch break, like those very normal things. But from where I had come from, it felt like an absolute luxury that we could all just, you know, go downstairs, get a hot chocolate, and not be, or like, and not sit in meetings the entire day. Like they were really, really good development teams, which is where I learned a lot about agile development, setting up a team, what skills you need on a team, and having a role, because I also wasn't trying to do a bunch of different things, and I had tasks that were assigned to me. It wasn't like here's an entire project and you by yourself, that you had like 15 people on a team. It's very interesting.
Cool. Something in the chat that also came up, I'm just like going back and picking at things now, but Palesa said that she loves how everything you built or everything you learned built on each other, and like how you put ideas out there. I think that's maybe the risks that you took all along your journey is such a big thing.
I mean, listen, this is in retrospect, right? At the time, I was just winging it. Like now I can pull the threads of the learnings together and sound very like this was the plan all along. But I'm also grateful that, you know, I became self-aware enough and I started going to therapy and I really started to just understand my own life, because it really depends how you tell your story. I could tell it in a very different way about being, you know, burnt out and sick and all the other real truths of it. But I think I can now look at it and take the good lessons and the things that I want to continue with, and also how much of that has influenced the business that I have now created. Was everything I didn't want to do. So everything I went through, I was like, let's not do this. Let's try something else. But I guess I also didn't have the answers of what the other thing was because I wasn't modeled a good environment all that much.
Mm.
So I had to pick up little things in different ways of, oh, that felt good or this felt good. Because, for example, in the corporate space was like, yes, it was safe and stuff, but I didn't grow. I feel like in the 2 years that I was there, I didn't really learn and grow much. There was not a lot of financial success necessarily. Like the safety also came with, here's a safe paycheck as well, which I didn't love either. So there's pros and cons to a lot of things, and I think all I've learned is, what's the story you tell of yourself to yourself these
I
days.
think that's insanely powerful. In short, like perspective or what angle you choose to look at things or how you choose to frame things to others and yourself. I think that helps so much. One more question, and this is also from Palesa. So she asks, what are the corporate businesses we should steer away from if you're only starting out in the creative industry? Name and shame.
I'm
not gonna do that live.
Can you tell I didn't screen the question before I read
Give me the
it?
private chat.
No, guys.
No, I'm
Let me
kidding.
also say this, right? Know yourself well enough to know what environment you are going to thrive in, because also there's value in some of the crazy toxic spaces as well, if that's something you enjoy, which is, it's what do you want? You have ton of options, but I would really say spend some time understanding what's out there, what that entire landscape is, and actually have a whole other deck on that if I can send to you guys after this so you can see the different environments they are to work in.
I love that.
And then choose from there. Yeah.
Just to add on to that, Sabeeha, I think, it's so important to know what you want, but you figure that out sometimes by being in a space that doesn't align. And you only do that by experience, in all honesty. And also, different spaces are different things for different people. So knowing that just because your experience somewhere was A, B, and C doesn't mean it's going to be the same for somebody else as well. So we have different needs, and that's really important to remember. Yeah.
I agree. And I think that's why I say know yourself. Figure who you are out as a person. And if you can answer that, very much like dating, you will hopefully find the right.
I mean, we'll save that for the next talk.
Yeah, listen, I haven't figured that out. If someone wants to teach me how to date, I'm very open to this.
Not like arranged, hey? We can get something sorted out.
Oh, can we? Oh, that's great.
my whole family would love you for it because they are
I'm kidding.
concerned for my
Listen,
well.
you're an independent woman. Just keep doing what you're doing. I actually just wanted to, if we have time, just to touch on quite a few points that you made very briefly. I feel like I've went through a similar journey, and maybe not the money part, not gonna lie, which is fantastic for you, and that's so inspiring. But I felt like I went through similar difficulties, and I'm going to be super transparent, especially with the roles that we were in, especially coming from a female perspective. Sorry to make it about gender, guys, but from a female perspective, being in the design industry, and exactly like what you said, I was head of design at a company. Title was great, but they didn't. I hope they're not listening to this live. But anyway, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
We're not going to name and shame. But I totally resonated with what you said. Like knowing your worth and knowing like your sanity is so important. And I had to step away from that position because I needed to just be kinder to myself and know that the money was okay. Money was great, but was my mental health really worth risking that? And so when you were mentioning that and taking us through that, I was like, wow, it actually made me feel like I am not in it alone, and which I think a lot of people in the design industry, regardless of gender, if we're going through something like that, it's like, oh man, no one else is going through the struggle. And as much as it was, I'm sure, difficult for you, you've learned a lot from it, and you can move forward and not make those similar mistakes again, which I think is great. It's not fun to go through.
No. I mean, I hope I don't make them again. But it definitely leaves room for new mistakes, which is also fun because I think on the other side of all of this is having employees, right? That's where I've now had to sit on the other side of the table. I've developed also a ton of empathy for what I went through because I understand the stress and the environments, the people that were above me, around me, were also going through the decisions they had to make. And it's really, for me, it's come down to like people over profits. And I've had to give up profit on more than one occasion to take care of the people in my care, which is what I believe is my job as well. Is like I need to take care of them so that they can actually make money, because I'm not doing the work anymore. But I think that also in bigger businesses, or when you've made a lot of commitments, it's so easy to choose the money and say, cool, this has to get done, instead of sitting with the client and being like, listen, we made a mistake, we need more time, we need more budget, or just the honesty and transparency that comes with those difficult conversations. It's easier to just treat the people doing the work like shit. It's easier. So when faced with the same things, I'm glad of what I went through, because I can also see that if you haven't self-experienced that pain, how easy it is to just push someone else harder and harder because you're under so much of pressure, to make deadlines or targets or whatever. So yeah, I hope I I hope I continue to make better choices, I guess.
I'm sure you will.
Nice. The people in the audience really want this naming and shaming thing to happen. I think this is the best opportunity to move to the next section. Release that energy.
Yes, I'm gonna move to the next section. I just want to say that I have a LinkedIn profile if anyone wants to see where I've worked before.
Right, where's your presentation at? Let's get that up.
Yeah,
We were going to talk about Agile. Hey, I think that's where we were going.
I mean, I must be honest. I don't know how many people in industry can come to any consensus on what any of the words in our industry mean. What is a UX designer? What is Agile? What is development? So I'm
really hoping you were going to answer that today, because I've got no idea.
I'm going to tell you what it means to me and to my team and what I've learned. So agility to me is the ability to move quickly and easily. To me, it's a dance, essentially. The three main C's of Agile methodology is collaboration, coordination, and communication. And I think the biggest mistake people make with Agile is they think you like move fast and break things and there's no system and everyone is just, running amok. But quite frankly, the most important thing is system in this entire process. So shout out to Paul, who said that I have to mention that he is the coordinator of our life. As you can see, organizes every single meeting we need to be in. But essentially, what we do is we have a very rigid system that allows for a lot of flexibility and agility. The first thing in the collaboration space is being able to catch up with each other and communicate and collaborate, because we're also a remote team. We don't have an office, so we need to be able to work with each other without water cooler talks and over the desk in a co-working space. Everyone's sitting at home comfortably. So how do you actually schedule in time to work with each other? So the team, and I say this because I no longer have to do daily stand-ups essentially, but they have a daily catch-up and collaboration session from 9 to 10 a.m. every morning, where they discuss what they're doing for the day, they need any help. They have time to just sit and talk to each other and get another designer's perspective as well. And then every Thursday, we have a feedback session with sort of company-wide from 10 to 11:30, because we've also got different departments, different projects going. So how can we demo to each other, gain a little validation, gain some feedback? We use that time differently every week, and everyone gets a different chance to communicate with each other internally, at least. And then on the communication side, the most important thing is our retro meetings, again, every Thursday from 9 to 10, where we talk about our feelings. We talk about, what's happened in our life, what's worked for us, what hasn't worked for us, what can we improve. And we love to eat lunch together every Thursday, and we go to a different place every week to force ourselves to, not just eat chicken strips. If anyone on my team is watching, it's been my mission to like introduce them to food that is not chicken strips.
Chicken
I mean, I will say you guys lunch hard, hey? I follow you on Instagram and it's like,
I mean,
if you want to know where the cool restaurants are in Gauteng, or / South Africa, because there's definitely some exploration, follow their Instagram and you will find out what restaurants to go to.
We actually, us being us, have a form that we fill out at the end of every lunch. Vibe check, outfit check.
Oh, I love that. That's so cute.
Stick around for like
Nice.
the 2020.
No,
Yeah.
The data visualizations to come from all the data we collect.
That's gonna be so cool. So cool.
Because you
I
don't
want to
remember.
see the outfit check. Like,
Yes,
I want to see that vibe. Yeah.
And it's also like, how are you feeling? How do you feel about your fit today? And it's so interesting when I'm like, oh, like I'm feeling like a 6 today, or I feel like a 9 today. It's such a great space to communicate with each other, because again, if you don't create the space and time for that, it's so easy to just continue working. And the backbone of this entire thing is the coordination of our Lord and Savior Paul Lutz on a Wednesday from 10 to 11. We have a project catch up and sprint planning, where at any given time we have 10 to 14 projects running in our system simultaneously with just 4 people, because I don't collaborate in that space anymore, and we've split them up into 2 departments now. So absolute magic happens in just planning things out and being quite strict in the system. And this is sort of how it looks, right? What we borrowed from the Agile methodology is this concept of a sprint, which is a short period of time where a team works to complete very specific tasks, milestones, or deliverables. And sprints separate a project timeline into smaller, more manageable blocks. So what you're looking at here is our Notion system. So you could see this was sprint 19, which was the 25th of May. Our sprints run from a Thursday to a Wednesday, because nothing irks me personally more than trying to do planning on a Monday. And nobody wants to work on a Thursday. So essentially Wednesday is when we do our planning. Thursday, we talk about our feelings, we do feedback, we go for lunch, and everybody else usually shuts off. The only person that you can see has more admin tasks is Claire, because she's the only one in our team that sits in Cape Town, and she doesn't work Fridays. So we also work on a very 3.5, 4-day work week, depending how things go. So she usually takes a Friday off, and the majority of us take the rest of Thursday off, and we will willingly go to lunch together and spend our time. It's not company mandated, but it is a free lunch, so no one really says no. So that's from a systematic perspective. We have a brand and marketing department, and we have a system and product department. And as you can see, there are tasks set up into bite-sized, doable tasks for that day. Some tasks happen, sort of over 3 days. They have different priority levels. So those morning stand-ups is basically to just say, hey, if something came up and we need to move something around, there's the ability to do that. Every Wednesday is when we'll sort of do the master plan based off of what's happened with me in sales, what's happened with client commitments. But the agility really comes in being able to move these blocks around, also depending on who's in the mood for what. So on a Wednesday, once we have the tasks, we'll usually be okay, who's in the mood for websites, who's in the mood for branding. And everyone has their preferences, but we also have the ability to let someone else, if someone's been doing, system design for the last 2 weeks, and they're listen, guys, I just need a change of scenery. Is there a website? Is there something else I can work on just to boost my creative juices? And yeah, this actually is, as I said, the backbone of what allows us to work less, essentially, because we have it planned out. A big part of my belief system, and what I understand also from the concept of sprinting, is that at some point you need a rest. So every quarter we take a sprint off to rest and recover, align. So it's very much in line with our sprint planning as well as seasonal changes. So coming up soon is our spring break, but we've had a winter break, we've had an autumn break for a sprint essentially, and usually in summer we follow the European lifestyle where we take a good 4 to 6 weeks off to again just shut down, and the whole company shuts down together. Because I borrow a lot of that from sport, which is something I absolutely love and grew up understanding, was that you play together and you rest together, so that we all always on a similar energy level at least. Then, as we said, we love to talk about our feelings. We literally had a feelings app, which was absolutely amazing because none of us knew words to describe our feelings. And a sprint retrospective is basically a meeting that's held at the end of every sprint to review what happened before, what's coming up for the next sprint. It serves as an opportunity for all of us to reflect on our collaboration efforts. It's also a place to identify any issues and come up with some insights. So we usually start with how's everybody feeling? Again, what's happening in your life, because so much of your life can influence your work. So, I want to care enough to know what is happening, what should we be aware of, what's good, what's bad. And it obviously took time to build a safe enough space for people to share that much. Now we overshare a lot. So anyone that sits with us really scripts themselves. They're like, why are we talking about everybody's sex life currently at lunch? But after 2 years together, you get deeper into things. But yeah, the main things is basically what went well, what didn't go well, and how can we improve. And I would say this is also one of those core principles that I love about Agile, is continuous improvement. So anything that comes up, we have the opportunity to update in that next sprint planning. Or in the coming decisions that we make, because every week we're checking in on what could have been even a minor inconvenience for somebody. How do we better plan for that? We draw some insights, and then this thing basically scrolls where we have a shout out section. If we don't often, or at least all our love languages is words of affirmation, so it's, can you just acknowledge if something went well that week with somebody. But now we do this a little off board, so I have to go back because we're so used to now having just this conversation that we don't really have to record it. But it was a really great thing to get into. Here are the 12 principles of the Agile Manifesto that I had copied, pasted from Google.
Can I jump in and ask you a question before you start there?
Yeah.
It came from the audience and it also came from me. Is the project management tool that you guys use something that you've built for yourself, or is it another tool that we would recognize maybe?
So Notion is a platform you can use, but we custom built all our systems according to, which is what I love about Notion. Notion is basically a really beautiful way to access spreadsheets and documents, but you get to fully customize it. So I would encourage anyone that's into building their own systems to use that to test out. But yeah, this has been the past 3-4 years of us crafting a very integrated system of databases. Again, the developers in us that need to be able to.
Helpful.
Yes. Cool.
Okay.
So, based off of all of this, at the end of the day, when you look at these, the manifesto of the Agile methodology, regardless of how you implement it, this is sort of what we do, right? Meeting your end users or your end client needs with early and continuous delivery of work. So our clients see us every single sprint. We, have a meeting with them. We show them what we've done. We talk about what's upcoming. We're very open with changes in requirements, even late in the project, because we've got such a strong system and such a strong hold of scope. We're able to adjust scope as client needs. delivering completed work at regular intervals, preferably short ones. So a week is a perfect amount of time to try and at least control your life. I think when you plan for longer than that, things sort of go awry. Working with the project team and business owners daily. So that happens in the form of the daily catch up with a scrum. For me, the most important thing was assembling a motivated team, providing them with the right environment and support, and then trusting them to do what they are meant to do, which has obviously brought me back immense amount of time in my personal life. The ability to communicate face-to-face regularly, so those morning stand-ups, seeing each other every Thursday. I think most people look at us and they think we don't talk to each other regularly enough because we're remote. But I think when we create a space to have very specific conversations, we actually achieve way more than people that are sharing an office space because they're not intentional about the discussions that they are having. A big one for us is using completed work as a measure of progress. So we absolutely refuse to track time because I think it's so demotivating and frustrating. So if you said you were going to do something and you got it done, that means you are done with your work. I'm not going to ask you how many hours you spent on it, how long you worked, checking if you're online. I trust that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. And you'll communicate if something is wrong. Like, it's not also to say struggle. Like if something comes up and it can't happen in the amount of time you said it would, just let us know and we'll make a plan. Creating processes that promote sustainable efforts and a constant pace of work, as you saw with the way we plan out our sprints and our rest and all of that. It's very sustainable that everyone's getting enough rest. They come to work really excited and it feels like something that can sustain us. It's not like high periods of heavy work and then lots of rest, and that just feels a bit too chaotic for me, at least. Requiring continuous attention to excellence. Something I'm very, very painful about is I demand and I expect excellence. And I'm so grateful that the team I have around me demands that of themselves, that I don't need to even push them. If anything, I was like, guys, you need to chill, take a break, speak to a therapist, like I need to calm them down because they care so much about their work. Simplicity, encouraging simplicity. Again, even though you don't have to create overcomplicated systems and processes and tools, find something that works and that you can do. Like for us, because the only way this works is if you even do the admin, right? If you actually logging those tasks and putting everything into the system. And if it's so complicated and frustrating, then no one's going to actually do it. So trying to keep things simple. Recognizing that the best work emerges from self-organized teams, which even going into future businesses is definitely a big learning for me, where I don't necessarily want to create massive corporate companies. I would love to create self-organized micro teams that can run in sprints and work really well together. Instead of trying to get 20 people to coordinate on a call, 5 to me is a really great number for that, even less sometimes. And of course, reflecting regularly on how the team can be more effective and fine-tuning and adjusting the approach, I think brings immense growth when you just try to improve things by 1% every week instead of trying to have massive overhauls and digital transformations that happen, once every 5 years, for example. So yeah, that is at least how I try my best to implement the Agile Manifesto. I'm going to quickly run through how being a developer has influenced the fact that we're a design studio, right? We don't code anymore. The closest we come to code, I think, is Webflow these days, but again, no code. And basically how we position ourselves is a dev-ready design company where developers love to work with us, or we like to think so, at least. Some of the things come from, again, my experience in all the different roles, understanding what a startup needs, understanding how products are built, even though it may not be in the role of a designer necessarily. Like functional specs, for example, is something that came from working with business analysts and, having played a BA role, where when you sit with a client, actually writing down a functional spec in as much detail as is humanly possible to make sure everyone's on the same page of what does this actually mean? Because it's so easy to say, oh, the button should do X, but you have no idea how on earth this button is supposed to do that. And then this is something we found that helps align our clients, our designers, our developers. Everybody's on the same page on exactly what the system is supposed to do and how. Where do emails get sent out? What happens to the button when you click it? What are all your different error, empty, loading states? What's required? What's not? The least sexiest document, but excites me personally the most because I can understand scope and how much to charge a client, essentially. Another thing we do is the most insanely detailed design system. So again, coming from development, we used a lot of front-end frameworks like Bootstrap, which I'm showing my age now with that because I don't know how relevant that is anymore. Yesterday, I sat with a developer who's like, we're using the Chakra UI design system. And I'm like, I have no idea what that is. But essentially what we do is we create our own design systems or UI design systems per client, especially if they going to become a big enough client with enough software that they're going to need their own UI system that devs can build out, essentially to create visual consistency across everything. And this also forms the basis of all our Figma components, but literally to the level of, CSS fields that we can put in to let a developer know just how detailed we want the UI to look. The kerning and the letter spacing, etc. Another thing is very, very detailed, diligently prototyped, clickable prototypes, essentially with some motion and animation principles. What this allows is for both client and developers to understand the experience we want an app to have once it's built. It definitely takes a ton of effort, especially when you have multiple different user types and features. But we found that with usability testing, with developer handover, you can't there's no such thing as too much detail. Another one is responsive design, where a lot of times, especially when I was quoting in the early days, I'm like, oh, do you want desktop and mobile? They're like, oh, no, if it's cheaper, we'll just take the desktop, and then the devs will figure out how to make it responsive. Nowadays, it's not really a negotiation. It's like you will receive designs for all the screen sizes relevant to ensure that we have the best, most considered experience across different devices. And it also just takes the load off of developers trying to guess what should happen, essentially. And obviously having development backgrounds, we understand also with the different tools you use, how easy and how difficult it may be to develop responsively from our designs. I think this is lastly is a development handover document where we export. It's almost like when we asked ourselves when we were developing, what would we have loved to receive from a designer in order to make our life easier? And we keep adding to this. So exporting all the assets, putting everything in one file. So again, we use Notion for this. So having everything in one place, having platform recording. So again, there's so much of nuance in the designs that you do that, we actually sort of go through every single flow, do a Loom recording so that you can even talk through the flow so that both a developer and a client knows exactly what's happening and what should happen, because a design can also only tell you so much. Things like emailer designs, everything in one place, essentially. So I believe the devil is in the details, because it may seem simple, it may sound simple, but in fact, the details are super complicated and cause a ton of problems, especially, in what the client says versus what the designer does versus what finally gets developed. We try and cut out any possibility for miscommunication or misunderstanding in that process. And our goal is to essentially just continue going deeper into the detail to make that relationship as seamless as possible and to essentially help our entrepreneurs visualize their dream ideas. And that's me.
Yay!
Oh man, sorry, I had to.
Thanks, Sabeeha.
Thank you, Sabeeha.
That was a great presentation. Wow. That was so visually appealing.
Right?
Sure.
Thank you very much. That was this morning because I'm a procrastinator.
I refuse to believe that you made that this morning. Like,
Yeah.
I call cat. something.
Yeah, I'm
I
not buying it
mean,
either.
I'm pretty sure she did, if I'm honest.
Wally knows. I literally, I wrote my
remember
honors
those
paper in
days.
one day.
I
What?
mean, no, that's
No
that's an
way.
exaggeration.
Wally,
2 days.
I
2
had
days.
one chapter, and the rest of the chapters I wrote the night before it was due. I had obviously all the information. I do all the research, but
I was like, yeah,
the
it's fine. Just submit
execution-
it. Just submit it.
Yeah.
I don't need to read it.
Oh, I remember. I was like, I'm sorry, you're not going to read this, but
Like, it's fine.
yeah.
Sounds very
Yeah,
familiar as well, you know? Procrastination is a friend, you know, not an enemy. It's just it's a friend.
I believe things will take up as much time as you allow them to, so it will get done.
I mean, there was a lot of work that we put in before that moment.
Yes.
It wasn't like there was nothing and then it came
No,
out.
no, of course, of
Yeah.
course. But I think everyone went through like rounds of writing and changing. I just,
Yeah. Gonna
I
get
couldn't.
flashbacks, yeah.
PTSD.
Flashbacks.
If there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer.
I think Jade, you need to explain what the noodles are in the comment section are, because I think we need to know.
Listen, my kids are here. So since obviously they can't chat, but we refer to noodles as the connections in our prototypes. So that's what my bad for misspelling noodles. I'm working with toddlers right now, okay? My brain is on toddlers. But yeah, we refer to it as noodles, and we're always talking about there's something wrong with our noodle. What's going on? That noodle is just in the wrong space. Why is it not functioning? So yeah, that's noodles for you.
Yeah, the noodles.
Yes,
Aw.
it is a spider web of a mess. Hey,
But functional, like it's a functional mess. We know what we do to a certain extent.
Like most of the time.
I think, guys, if you want to ask questions, I would do so now. We do have a little bit of time for it. Something I wanted to just bring up, I guess, that came up for me listening to what you were saying was how much like human-centeredness you have incorporated into like your workflow and into how you treat your team and how you treat your client. And I think it's, super relevant to so much of what you've spoken about today is so relevant to the Umuzi community. So I remember thinking that when we had our first sort of like exploration chat, there's the development and there's the design, but there's Agile, which is something that all teams at Umuzi try to incorporate in all or some of their functions. And yeah, the design thinking / like human-centered side of things is what all people that join the music community start in. And it's amazing to just see all of the concepts that we sort of engage in and offer to learners and learners offer to us, and we are the language of Umuzi, to see that in practice in a super, super successful business is just like, of course we had to have this conversation today. Thank you so much for it.
no, thank you guys. It's again, unless someone actually asks you, oh, how has this influenced things, you just keep going and you make decisions instinctually. But it's like you actually have to sit and think, oh my goodness, actually this influenced this and this influenced that. And I mean, even the way we do holidays and breaks, I mean, that was from that startup that I worked at, where everyone went away on like a year-end function together. Like we all were in Drakensberg together.
Nice.
And that's something we now do, where we have a year start function. And to start the year, we all go away to the bush for like a weekend. And then in winter, we come away to the sea, with a friend or a partner or somebody, just to like spend quality time together. But again, that was something I saw happen there. And now implementing it here. So just, thank you for asking, I guess.
Pleasure. I love the narrative that work doesn't have to be that conventional, like understanding of this hard graft with bad team and people you don't like to work with and a workspace you don't like to go to. In fact, it's like quite the opposite, which is cool. which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think just building on what Sarah said, like a super shout out for even taking the chance on yourself, because that's scary. That's like that's super scary. Just like, I'm gonna really take a chance on myself. I'm gonna do it in a human-centered development kind of routine, and and you're actually doing it day in, day out. You built this amazing team. That's really, really inspiring. So like a super shout out to you.
Thank you. Shout out to the team for trusting in my craziness, because I mean, that's the other side of it, right? Like their salary, I have to care about paying them every month, and I'm like, thank you guys for trusting me with your livelihood. I'm going to try my best to not kill you along the way, I guess.
I think you're definitely doing an amazing job in the field, and I just want to commend you for just inspiring. I'm pretty sure I can see by all of the comments, you've inspired so many.
Stand up. Paul, come join us. He's crawling into the apartment.
Oh, come say hi.
Whoa, plot twist.
Oh,
We know you, but you might not know us.
fine. How are you? I miss you.
Excellent. Yes, you too. I'm glad we follow each other on Instagram now.
I know. Finally, after all these years.
Yes. Hi. Sorry.
Paul
we
was
just
one
came
of my
back from-
favorites.
Yes. Yes,
Holly
mine
is my favorite.
No.
Yes, Paul is the reason I get to
Yeah,
love
the
the
context
life.
for the rest of us 30 people here.
I
we
used to-
have no idea what you're talking about.
I used to teach. Paul was one of my students at Open Window, and I was at Open Window before Sabeeha. I think you were in first year when Sabeeha was in honors. There was like some sort of overlap there, but yeah, we go way back as well.
Cool.
Also,
Alright.
like most of my team is the Open Window cult, right? Like,
Yes.
our previous developers that now all
Mm.
banded together to run a design studio. So cults are great.
Love that.
That's another
Oh,
tip.
wow.
I mean,
Passion.
That's on the
it
next
was
episode.
good. It was really good. It'll be on YouTube soon, so you can watch it one night.
I know.
Just
He's heard. He vetted the presentation.
and she did make a special shout out to you for all of your structure and planning and stand-ups and na-na-na-na-nas.
That's awesome to hear. But yeah, enjoy the talk or enjoy chatting, y'all.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
They were
I think-
crawling in. It was
I know. I love it. I think that's a beautiful place to leave our conversation today. I think we haven't seen any questions come through. Sabeeha, thank you so much. We thank you in the beginning. We thank you in the end. That was so beautiful to listen to. I'm glad we have it as a resource to go back to, because I got a lot of things. I was like, check there. That was like, yeah, me too.
100%.
amazing.
But that was-
Thank you all for your time and for arranging this, and have a wonderful weekend and the rest of Women's Month. I guess what's left of it.
Cool
You too.
people.
Thanks, Sabeeha.
Thanks so much.
For having us as well, Sarah, Kali. It was awesome. And
Great. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, shout out for having us, guys.
Bye to the people online.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.